No, okay. Coming at your end.
I think Angela, are you ready? I think Angela will be fielding the questions on chat for those who didn't know. So if you have a question, I think Angela will be there. I see Tina Williams. I see Judy's chair, but she's not sitting in it. Yeah, I think we can go, Link Emily.
Good morning, and I will reserve the welcome for you, Link Thelma, but I wanted to say good morning to everyone. I have some invitees. I see Valerie Carey. Hello, Valerie. I know that we want to thank all of you for your donations and for joining us today. The resources that we have garnered for support for this event will go to support women in Africa and Uganda and help bring about their economic reciprocity. We've had a few technical difficulties. If you made a donation and it asked you for a recipient name, know that your donation will get to us. But if you have not made a donation and would like to, we definitely appreciate you. Any donation that you would give. If you get to a point in the link from the PayPal link, go ahead and enter at PB links, and it should bring it right to us. If you have any trouble, you can contact me directly at emilyrogersfarr@gmail.com. I will put my email and phone number in the chat. If you have trouble with your donations, you can reach out directly. With that, I will turn it over to Link Thelma for the welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Welcome, everyone. I want to thank everyone for taking their time on this Sunday morning. We're still in a pandemic, hoping we're getting better with more vaccines out there, but I want to thank you all for your time. Today, the Links Peninsula Bay chapter brings to you, in collaboration with David Kibuuka, all the way from Kampala in Uganda, the motherland. He's here today to share his art with our Black History Month, with art from the past, present, and future. So have a great day and morning in store for you. I met David, a little bit about David. I met David back in the late 90s here in the San Francisco Bay Area at the Art Room through the 100 Black Men of Silicon Valley. And it's, like I said, many years ago. And we have just kept up with each other. I do have quite a bit of his artwork. His artwork is phenomenal pieces. His painting is collected actually by celebrities, sports figures, musicians, prominent business people, just a couple names: Shaq O'Neal, Lennox Lewis, Dionne Warwick, Debbie Allen. That's just a few. Could keep going on. So it's with really great pleasure that David has been able to afford us his time. He's a philanthropist, and has been and is still very involved in helping with HIV, AIDS, etc. And today we are focusing on the women and girls of Uganda. I have another guest that will also follow David's wonderful art that he'll share with us, and her name is Esther Juliet. And when she comes on, she'll be talking to us about the women and girls we're servicing through our international trends and services linked Peninsula Bay. So just a little bit more about David. David was born in Uganda, East Africa, not West. You look at the map and you see where East Africa is, it's got your Kenyas and that close by. So those are his neighboring countries. David started painting at age 5. And at 15, he had already built a reputation as an exceptional artist. His talent and love of art led him to enroll in Kampala's Makerere University School of Fine Arts. But the political turmoil and strife created by then President Idi Amin forced David to flee his homeland. And some of us on here, I think quite a few will remember that turmoil in the 70s. Between 1978 and 1980, the young art students sought refuge in Kenya. Remember I said earlier, neighboring country, studying human anatomy, painting, graphic design, and illustration at art schools in the capital of Nairobi. In 1983, David moved once again, this time to North America, Canada, where he found jobs with animation companies and studios. Always looking for ways to stretch his artistic muscles. In 1988, David enrolled in the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto. There he studied animation and computer graphics, graduating the following year. His philanthropy has been always for good charitable organizations. Between 1990 and 93, he supported worldwide fundraising efforts by UNICEF. With that came greeting cards, and featuring 4 of his images were sold internationally to benefit Children's Foundation. Right behind me here is one of David's art pieces from 1996. So, like I said, my walls are adorned with his paintings as well. So David also worked with World Vision Canada and Artistic Canada in producing images for posters to raise money for Hope Initiative. The project provided prevention care, advocacy programs for children and adults affected by HIV/AIDS pandemic, which we all know was devastating to the world. David's art and fashion connections as well with his art. He's the architect of what he's going to show you today amongst his fine art and textile, modern batik art painting, considered one of the founding fathers. David uses signature technique he calls fragmentation to create textiles and art. The technique involves the breaking of an image into smaller geometric fields and reassembling them into images using water-based dyes, wax, and fabric. David's novel approach yields control, detail, and richness of acrylic and watercolors. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to David to tell you a little bit more about himself. David, please, it's now your turn on the floor.
Thank you so much, Thelma. I really appreciate it. Shah, and the link chapter in San Jose. I really appreciate it very much, and happy New Year, everybody there. And I'm just going to go briefly about my introduction. Just briefly, I'm the last born of 11 children. That means 4 boys and 7 girls. So a total of 11. I left Uganda in 76 during Idi Amin's regime, and moved to Nairobi because everything was kind of messed up here by that time. But before I left, I used to do a lot of art in school. My art teacher, my late brother Henry, they really helped me a lot to really advance a lot of my work. And by the time I moved into Kenya in Nairobi in 76, I was able to sell a number of my batiks and then enroll myself into college there. And from there, I went to school as I sold my work in Nairobi City. But in 92, they had a coup attempt in Nairobi, and I moved to Canada in 1983. Toronto, Canada was pretty good, apart from being cold, but it was a nice city, decent, and I went to school there, Ontario College of Art, graduated in animation, computer graphics. But I moved towards my art more because of the cultural and traditional implication that I saw that I really wanted to preserve it. And I opened up my first gallery in Toronto in 1990, and then in 1992 moved to Santa Monica on Main Street in California. And then in 94, the earthquake again hit it, and I went back to Toronto. So that's it in a nutshell, in a way. But I want to shift more because of the time, so that I can focus on the technique, especially in the modern batik technique. What you see here behind me is the book that I've just released on Amazon. a few days, through 3 days ago. So it's available on Amazon, and I have tutorial classes on at the site as well. So people who want to see more of the work, who wants to learn the technique, that's one way they can actually interact it. It's on my Modern Batik Art Workshop. I think Mr. Thummer and Sean may give you the website link after this presentation. I'm going to start with this fabric. I think you can actually see it's a white fabric. So we work on this kind of fabric for the modern batik technique. Now, there's a lot of things we usually saw as a white fabric, and anybody can do this. I've had quite a lot of workshops in Toronto, even in Harlem. I had a number of actually African American women. They were all Black women, and I did something with them, textile in Harlem. I've done some workshop in Florida, Oregon, but mostly in Toronto and around Canada, I would say. And I've been in a lot in schools too, especially youth. I'm going to start with some of the. Let me just see something here. Yes, I'm going to start with the masks. These are simple pattern. Can everybody see this? I guess so.
Yes.
This is a mask. This is a mask in a fragmentation and toning technique. So it's an African mask, but there's a lot of things. You can do it in black and white, you can do it in browns, you can do a lot of patterns in this. And I'll show you another one, a series of them actually, like this. I think you can see this. I don't know if this is clear to you there.
Yes.
So you can see what you can come up with, especially if now these could be done in a repeat pattern. So you can actually make designs out of this. Could be pillowcases, could be lampshades, could be curtains. Like all these are a series of different kind of masks you can actually get out of this technique in the modern batik. I can again show you some of these too. These are all masks. So I did a series of masks. So you could see how much composition and patterns you could do out of this. Just imagine this as your curtains, pillowcases, or a dress or a shirt, or whatever you want to, print out of it. And the good thing that today we have the digital printing, textile printing, so everything is done instantly. Now, I've done a few of these also in portraits. This is a portrait. Now, remember, this is dyes wax on fabric. So it's not acrylic, it's not watercolor, it's not oil. It's a wax dyes on fabric. But in this way, it's what we call the modern batik technique, where you can use dyes to get a feeling of painting. I've done quite a number of these portraits, and some of these I've been teaching them a lot in schools, especially high schools and universities in Toronto, where they can learn how to explore this medium. So these are different portraits done in, as you can see, like this is again a toning technique without fragmentation in the background. And you could see the lines used to break up this face. And again, this was done when I was in the Caribbean. I was in St. Kitts and Nevis. I had a workshop I was doing there. And in this piece is a Rasta with dreadlocks, a Rasta lady. So I was just showing some of my students that I'm going to come up with my own Rasta lady with all these dreadlocks. So this was done when I was demonstrating this technique in the Caribbean. Now, after those patterns, I mean, the plotters I've shown you, now I can show you some of the patterns which you can achieve in this technique. So these are like kind of coffee beans, but when they are arranged in this kind of way, they form a pattern. So this is a template on which I can print a whole row, or I mean, I could do 20 yards, 100 yards of this repeat pattern. The same thing applies to this pattern as well. As you can see. So, I mean, like some of these patterns, especially, for example, if people in, let's say the ladies in the States, in the African-American community, they can actually do their own patterns, learn this technique, and do these patterns, and actually make their own fabrics. So the designs could come from all over Africa. They're there from Ghana, Mali, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, Central and North Africa. And they're already there on the internet. So all you have to do is do it in the fragmentation technique, because this is not anywhere in the world, because they have to learn to do this technique in order to produce it into textile. So they're just like, for example, these are patterns from West Africa. Anybody who's been in West Africa, these are almost like fertility dolls kind of sculptures. But again, you can capture them into this kind of technique or interpretation into the fabric. So this gives you an idea of what you can do with this technique. Again, here we have another pattern. These are maize seeds, but when they're done in this kind of pattern, they turn out like this. So, I mean, you could do almost anything that it could be birds, it could be anything. You can experiment with whatever you want in this technique. And this is a common pattern. I think a lot of people are familiar with this. It's mostly like a design of a flower. It could be a sunflower, but it was breaking it up into a more abstract or contemporary kind of format, but in the modern batik technique. So you can see the fragmentation, how it breaks up in these different colors that are used. Again, you can see it's upside down. I hope this can go any other way. So these are just like toads. So you can see I did, let's say, for example, just one toad, repeated so many times, and came up with a pattern. Now, this is not very hard to do. Anybody can do actually this, amateurs, novice, or professionals. I've done, that's what I was saying, that you could do almost anything. Look at now these kind of bugs. These are like bugs, which you can actually design in this format as well. And of course, you can change colors as you want, but notice the fragmentation in the background. This is what sets this technique apart. Now, I've done these Nigerian kind of sculpture dolls. I think you saw the other ones in the warm colors. Now, these ones are in the green color, as you can see. You can see they're done in greens, and again, notice the fragmentation or the lines that go through the entire piece. I have again patterns like this. You can just imagine this as a head wrap or a dress. pillowcases, curtains. I mean, it's totally endless what you can do today because of the technology we have. We have these digital printing machines, which produces patterns instantly. You can see now this is a study of the pots, and done this way, they make very beautiful patterns as African pots. So you can put a lot of African designs in the pot and get a number of these things in different colors too. Okay, now there's this pattern is from Rwanda. They call them the Migongo, and I kind of assimilated it with the fragmentation because they don't have it into fragmentation, and usually they do just one. They only do this part up to here. So what I did, I connected it and made it into a repeat pattern throughout, and I chose my own colors and introducing the fragmentation, literally changing the pattern and giving it a new spin. Now, I had shown you some of those pots before, but those were in purples, and now here are some in yellows, red, and greens. And you can see the African patterns in the pots, but notice also the fragmentation background, which moves all around them. This is another pattern. I just did this randomly. It doesn't have any, I don't think it should be an African pattern, but I think it is. But I mean, it's just very simple layout of just two, three colors. That's it. And it's just in blue tones. The same thing here with the spiders. I mean, butterflies, but they're more into a very abstract format. Still another set of butterflies, again done more in the browns. So it really depends on the subject matter you want to do, because you may move into African patterns or you can move into any other patterns that you feel. And there's this pattern, it's kind of longish. So this is a very longish pattern, as you can see. You know, I could just move it like this so that you can see the figures in it. So all these are patterns that you can, they could be figures or they could be just symbols. There are a lot of African symbols. And lastly, in the modern batik technique is this guy running track and field, but it's more done with my concept, the way I felt that I wanted to show it, like this guy just blazing on a track. And you know that in we have some of the top, in fact, most of the top athletes in the 100 meters, they are usually from the Black community. We hold that record totally. So this kind of shows that streak. But it's done in the modern batik technique. You can see the fragmentation, using it as a background to show the effects of speed and just my emotion. Okay, so I've gone through part of the modern batik technique, and I don't know if anybody has any questions before I go to show you my paintings in another format.
We did have one question. There was a question from Michelle Godot asking, would you frame the art or hang it in its current form?
No, I prefer it to have it framed. So basically, it's good that in North America, you have, most framers have what they call dry mount or wet mount. So if it is on fabric, it's good to put it to dry mount it so that all the creases comes out. And then you put mat board and glass to protect it from dust or water. That's the best way. That's how I frame the original batiks because it's on fabric. But when you stretch it, sometimes people don't put glass around it and dust hits it. I mean, it could be water, an accident or anything. So it always needs to be protected, just like watercolors are always behind glass. And that would be the best way to protect anything that is an original on fabric, because you can't really wash it and then take it off the frame and wash it.
Thank you.
No, you're very much welcome. So I'm just going to move to show you some of now the paintings. And I'd wonder, talking with Thelma at one time, that most of these paintings prints, so these are various prints as well, and some that can be sold, and a percentage goes towards the women and the youth programs in Uganda as well. And that's one way of raising, I think, money that I use a lot with my work. So I'm just going to start bring the other bunch here. So you can just give me just a few minutes.
Is everyone enjoying so far?
It's amazing. Oh my gosh, everything is so incredibly beautiful. Lake Thelma, this is Lake Shaw. What makes the art batik art? Is it the wax method? I was just wondering about that.
Yes, let me have David answer it, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, if there is no wax, it's not a batik, because the batik usually originates from Asia, from Java, those Asia, especially Indonesia. Those are the people who are batik specialists. Batik came to East Africa in the 50s and also sprayed into North America as well and Europe. But mostly it came as tie and dye, if you remember tie and dye. But then there was some traditional batik. So what I came up with is a modern component. I'm still using the same materials, but I can use works. Works can be actually used to give you different kind of shapes. Actually, I've forgotten something here, which I need to show you about some of the things. These are the large patterns which were printed on satin silk in Toronto that I did. And this is on sale. Let me just bring this whole thing so you can see this. So this is a repeat pattern. It's a meter or a yard, but you could do many yards as you want, and you can print it on cotton, you can print it on denim, you can print it on polyester, you can print it on any material. You can even print it on, you can make shoes, because the digital printing machines can print on plastic or different kind of plastics. So you can make designers ladies bags, you can make shoes, you can make table mats, you can make lampshades. So there's a lot of things that could come out of today, especially with the digital printers. So you don't have to do silk screen anymore because it takes so long to pull all these colors. But with digital printing, I think I did show you these templates of this design. Now here's the design done on satin silk. And this is just a meter, and you can see it's a repeat pattern all the way through. And you can change colors in Photoshop if you want. If any of your stuff, I'll show you some of this. You can see this one is a piece of done in masks. These are masks. You can see they are African masks in a repeat pattern on satin silk. But the same, now notice these masks, because I'm going to show you another copy of it with the background where it's white. Now the background here is black. So you can actually shift colors to what you really want to create and come up with this one with a white background. Let me see. Yeah, this should be it. So you can see now this in a white background. Now this particular design was designed by a 16 years old boy. I'd done a class with we have our queen in Uganda, and this is the traditional queen of Baganda tribe in Uganda. And she runs a youth organization, and some of the youth enrolled into that in my workshops. And one of the youth came up with this design, a template, which I took back to Toronto and printed 5 meters on certain cell, and a dress was made out for the queen. So it was really very exciting to see what her youth can actually do with the technique. Okay, is there any other question before I shift to the other artwork? We still have time. Okay, so
I think there
I'll
were a couple.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I think there are questions. Hi, this is Link Croatia. There were a couple questions in the chat related to how we might purchase some of the art or some of the cloth. Is there a particular website that you recommend, especially to make sure that the funds can go both? Go ahead.
Okay, to buy the fabric or the piece, the certain artwork I'm going to show you, because that's available. And I can deal through with Therma.
Okay.
And I can always FedEx spread everything into San Jose.
Oh,
that's
perfect.
not a problem. We have FedEx here in Uganda. So with the other one, they have to be printed.
Ah, okay.
But one of the things I was talking to Therma was that as you know, COVID goes down and we all get vaccinated and we try to go back to our normal life, is that I always go to Toronto in summer during June, July, August, and September to do summer camps. For a lot of youth are in summer holidays, and that's one way I can teach them. And I can easily come into the States because North America is North America, and I can travel in and out anytime. And we can arrange workshops where I can come into San Jose, or it would be Florida, any of your members, and they can be organized and they can learn this technique. It's a 2 days workshop, and they can produce templates, and those templates can be digitized, and then they can go to a number of printing companies in North America, which you have a lot in the States. And then you can print out your material, your own patterns, your own colors, your own choice. Yeah, because you can have something where you can go on a function and nobody has that pattern anywhere because you've done it exclusively for yourself, unless you sell the copyrights to your pattern. But you can have a lot of dress, you can have a lot of dresses and colors you've chosen, and nobody has it.
Wow.
And that's the ability what now in the 21st century, digital printing gives us. It gives us that power now to produce our own merchandise in terms of fabrics or home accessories like upholsteries, pillowcases, and cushions, whatever you want to do, table mats.
Wow.
So let me just, because of the time, let me just move to the artwork and show you some of these. Now, this is already the one you've seen on the book cover. By the way, this is a digital, and it's an ebook. So it's not a hard copy or paperback. You can download it for $9.99 from Amazon. It's on Kindle. You can use it on your template, computer, whatever. It's an ebook. I thought it was much easier for people to do that than shipping it all around. So this is one of the pieces. Is that clear for everybody? And it's centralized. So this
Yes.
is called water. This is a water carrier. And this is how it looks in its full production. And this is done from the modern batik technique, as you can see the fragmentation in the background. And what I have here is, this is a pencil. This is pencil and ink. It's called time carrier. So it has a story behind this piece. Is why I named it time carrier. As you can see, the woman is carrying water pot, but his body is turning into almost a cyborg, like a robot, defining time. Women have been carrying water in Africa, but not just in Africa, India, South America, for I think millennia, and they've moved into the 21st century. So that's why I named it time carriers. So they've carried time on their head, carrying water through different timelines. And that's why I named it time carrier.
David, could you lift it up a little bit higher so we could see the full length? Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. This is a Maasai piece called The Warrior. And it's an oil painting. The original was an oil painting. This is a print. And it's a 16 by 20. And it's in this kind of format. These are very easy to ship. Just roll it in a tube and it gets there. So this is a warrior print of the Maasai tribe in Kenya. This is a Maasai lady. The original medium was oil on canvas. But this is a print of it. All these are printed on canvas. Because these days I hardly print on paper anymore. Canvas is very easy to handle. It doesn't crease. It's more durable and much better. I mean, paper was good, but canvas definitely in the 21st century, we all moved to canvas. So this is of a Maasai lady. The Maasais are more found in Kenya and Tanzania. The same thing with the Maasai warriors. Now the next one is called Twin Sisters. These are two sisters. Again, they're Maasais in Kenya. And the Maasais are found in the Rift Valley. They are mostly in the Rift Valley, which goes through from Kenya and right into Tanzania. That's where you find the Maasai tribe. They use a lot of beads, lots of them. And this is a modern batik technique. And now, as you can see the fragmentation in the background. It's called Nakiinji, and it's printed on canvas. So these are all printed on canvas. What I'm showing you, because I've switched from the fabric original batiks to these prints, which are printed on the canvas. Again, this is a 16 by 20. And this one is called touchscreen. Now, there is a funny mention to this, because when I got back after 40 years in Canada, when I came back to Uganda, and I was asking a lot of women, I said, wow, women here have got really round bats. And they said, well, that's the African way. So as you can see, these women definitely have bats. And all Black women, I think, even in the States, this is what a lot of women are proud of. It's that developed bat. So this is called touch screen. Here I have a Nigerian harpist. It's called a harpist or Nigerian harpist. And again, it's a 16 by 20. It could come in a larger size, but I always prefer the 16 by 20 unless, because of the format is very different. But there are some which you see which are 20 by 30. This is another modern batik technique print called the basket weaver. Now, basket is very, very pronounced in Africa, all the way from West Africa, Central Africa, all the way to South Africa. Women do a lot of baskets. Now, this is a piece, it's a modern batik technique, but with no fragmentation. It's just a toning technique. It's called the orchestra. You could see the guy playing the flute, the drum, and the harp. And I termed it the orchestra. Now, this particular one is called in Loving Arms. You can see this young boy or a girl in the comfort of her mom, and it's called In Loving Arms. Now, this is a pencil. I love pencils, and when I do it, I really have fun. This is called rebirth. This lady is coming out of the pot after being trapped there for thousands of years, and she managed to put off the lid of the pot, and you can see she's oozing out of the pot, and I named it rebirth because she's just being reborn. This is a lady guitarist, and the title is Royal Guitarist. Again, we see very few women playing guitars, but it doesn't mean that women can't play guitars. So this is something that I did, and a lot of people like it because very few people have such painting in their homes of a woman playing guitar, but she's in a traditional outfit. You can see the head wrap and everything. And again, I like a lot of mothers. I do a lot of mothers and child a lot because I think the influence is from my 7 sisters. So I have done a lot of mother and child because I used to see a lot of my sisters breastfeeding, taking care of the kids all the time. Now, this one is the fruit carrier. Again, done in a modern batik technique. Now, the other thing is that all these prints are hand painted. So they are hand painted, and each is so different from the other print. I don't want them to look the same, so I hand paint them just to give them that extra coloring with acrylics. So these are the 20 by 30 prints. This is the harpists, 3 guys playing the harp. This is mostly from West Africa. So my art includes a lot of themes, not just from East Africa, but randomly all over Africa. This is the way we wear. It has a story behind it. This is the way in Africa we used to wear like this before the colonists came and say this was primitive and put us in clothes. But now I see that in Western Europe and Canada are running to a number of nudist camps. So they've gone back to nudist camp when we had it as a way of life. And look at the beauty of the pots, the beads, just the dignity of the African culture as we wear. That's why it is titled The Way We Wear. This is rushing home. This is a group of women coming from the market with a lot of fruits and water, and they're rushing home. The title is Rushing Home. These are 20 by 30, so they're no longer 16 by 20, but it can come in 16 by 20 as well. And this is also hand painted. And I have Pure Innocence. This is a piece I did of 4 girls with the hats behind, right deep in the village. Again, way back, because nowadays you can hardly see this couch anymore. All these people are carrying cell phones and they're in clothes. So it's really changed a lot. Again, a group of women carrying water. So this is called water carriers. I don't know if some summer or whatever, if you're familiar with this popular piece, it's called Togetherness. Some mother
I have that
with a
piece, yeah.
newborn baby. Exactly. So this is done in a modern batik technique. You can see the fragmentation behind it. This comes in a 20 by 30 on canvas, and it's hand painted. This is some of the Ankole cattle. We have cows with these long horns. So these cows actually, they're only in western part of Uganda with these huge horns, and they're called the Ankole cattle. Least but not last, this is probably the last one. It's called the market scene, which is the barter. These are, a traditional African market scene. These people, as you can see, they're in the market, buying fruits everywhere. And this is still there to this day. You find a lot of market scenes in all of Africa, maybe India, South America. They're still going on. I think you guys in North America, we have supermarkets. That's where everything has moved. But in Africa, this is very, very normal. I see it every day. And I buy all my fresh organic fruits from these ladies all the time. So that ends my presentation of the African paintings. And I don't know how much minutes I've gone through used. I think I was given about 45 minutes for this thing. And I don't know how many minutes I have left. I've probably got 10 minutes. And then I think Esther Namiala will then come in to do her presentation.
Right.
And if you have any questions, yeah.
Do you have any questions, Angela? I think there's some questions. Go ahead, everyone, whoever's.
There's a question from Lisa Gaucher wanting to know, how long does it take typically take to create a design or painting?
A design would take about, because in the design, I have the beginners class, which everybody has to go through. It's compulsory because people don't know how to apply wax, dyes on fabric. Everybody can use acrylic paints or watercolor. Everybody does that. But usually I do my classes in 2 days, which means 6 hours, 6 hours, total is 12 hours. But when we do the beginners, there's beginners, intermediate, advanced, and masters. But usually people do a lot of work in the beginners class. And that part template, which you can do, that's the key thing, because the pattern is put into a repeat format. So it's a repeat pattern once it gets on the press. So they just graphically just repeat it. And you can do meters and meters or yards and yards of it.
Can I ask a follow-up question? The question is also for you. Typically, how long would it take for you to create your design and your paintings? What's the process and timing?
Okay, the paintings depends, especially if they are oils, acrylics, or pencil drawing. It may take me a week, it may take me 2 weeks, depending on the size. Especially the oils don't dry right away, so you can't rush them. Acrylics are very easy to use, and it depends on how detailed it is. Some of mine are contemporary and they're not very detailed. Some are detailed. Now, in terms of the modern batik is pretty fast in its own way because the dye is dry and you wax. So there's this repetition of dry, wax, dry, wax, dry, wax, each color has. And then you have to remove the wax, iron it out with a hot flat iron, and then ink it. So that is a very, very fast, rapid production. And that's why it's easy for me to teach, because people don't have to know so much. It's the technique which is the key. Because I mean, I've had, that's why I teach it from seniors. Seniors love it because it's very therapeutic, very therapeutic. Then adults, then youth. And some from, let's say, grade 7 to grade 8. I don't go below grade 4 because of the hot wax we use. Some of these kids can play around and burn themselves.
Thank you. We have another
You're
question
welcome.
from Tina Jones Williams and wanting to know what size is the market scene?
The market scene is in a 20 by 30 inches. Those are inches.
All right, thank you. And we have a question from Valerie Carey, wanting to know who are your biggest influences and who do you look for guidance or inspiration?
My biggest influence definitely was my late brother Henry, my dad, my mom, because they knew that I was an artist when I started using charcoal on the walls. And of course, I got spanked quite a lot until my brother said, well, buy him a sketchbook. And that's where the influence came from. And he was also a mentor because he was very, very good. He was the first Ugandan in 1962 to head the Uganda television art department. So he had to be that good. And of course, I'm a more of a spiritual person. I always look towards my ancestors before time that inspire me because of the culture narrative in it. I mean, the drums, the spirits of our ancestors. So that's a very good inspiration for me to back it up, just as you see a lot of my warriors, musicians, it goes back to the cultural roots. And I hold on to that very dearly.
Thank you. And we have another question related to purchasing. From Benita, the designs that were presented today, can they be found on your website for us to select from?
Yes, definitely. And Summer has the website name. It's zimbecollectionsinteriors.com, but she will probably pass it to you. That is something that I think could be used with other members of Links to raise money, because that percentage can go towards the funding of some of the programs in Uganda. especially the youth and some of the senior ladies. And I think as Ether is going to go through that so that we can see how this thing can be tied in.
Thank you. And we have one more question from Karen McGee, wanting to know the size of the Maasai warrior painting.
The Maasai warrior painting comes in two sizes. Let me see here. It comes in a 16 by 20 and 18. This one comes, this particular one, right? I think this is the one.
Yes. Yes,
This
that's
comes,
correct.
yeah, this comes, this is a 16 by 20, but there's another one which is 18 by 30. No, 20 by around 20 by 30.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, slightly bigger. Yeah, slightly bigger than this.
Karen, you lived in Kenya for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, I was in Kenya for.
I'm
That was in,
West African.
Oh, it was West Africa. Okay.
But I'm just amazed that there's such universality in the artwork, but I didn't ever see any batik work in West Africa when I was visiting here. So it sounds like this is something.
no, they're not really. Yeah, they're more into mud cloth. They do a lot of mud cloth.
Yeah.
Those kind of pattern, the kentis, the kitenjis, and the kentis. But in East Africa, you find a lot of batik, even in South Africa, but it's mostly common in East Africa. But usually what they do in East Africa is a lot of traditional batik in East Africa. Mine is a component that I added on with my late brother, and I moved with it to Toronto, to Canada. And then I found that nobody was doing it. Everybody was into traditional pieces that they were doing in Asia. So this is a new twist to batik using wax and dyes.
We really appreciate your creativity. It's just amazing.
Thank
Maybe
you.
I have to say I don't have a lot of questions because I'm in awe. I'm just enjoying it.
Thank you. But when you visit the website, you will see more of that. And by all means, please do. I'm going to, I think if there's any more questions, I'm going to let Lady Ether Namialu come and do her presentation.
Yes.